Hola clase, vamos a hablar del pretérito, el imperfecto. Dos diferentes tipos del pasado. Primero lean en el consultorio de la doctora Méndez. Bueno, preterite and imperfect are both past tenses in Spanish, but they're not interchangeable. We need to figure out the context in which we use each different tense. Okay? The choice between the two tenses is going to depend on context and point of view of the speaker. Now, preterite is generally something that we use to describe an event. Something is completed. It expresses actions that are completed. Okay? So they were completed in the past. They're an event finished. Don Francisco se rompió la pierna. Fueron a Buenos Aires ayer. Okay? While the imperfect is something that's going on. We're making no reference to the beginning or the end. Okay? So it's something, if we're looking on the timeline, it's ongoing and we don't see, boom, that one big X where we can see where it started and ended. Don Francisco esperaba a Javier. El médico se preocupaba por sus pacientes. Okay? So we can see the aba ending for the imperfect, which is an ongoing event in the past. Okay? When we use the beginning, when we're speaking about the beginning or the end of a past action, again, we're talking about an event. So we can see on that timeline a big X. La película empezó a las 9. Empezó. Ayer terminé el proyecto para la clase de química. Okay, so we can see when it began, when it ended. El imperfecto, again, imperfecto is something that on the timeline keeps going. For example, a habit. Okay, a habit in the past, something that's habitual, un hábito. Cuando era joven, jugaba al tenis. De niño, Don Francisco se enfermaba con mucha frecuencia. Okay, so we can see the aba for the imperfect are things that continually happen as habits. Okay, a series of actions or events in the past are going to be the preterite. Again, evento, evento, evento. On the timeline we have X's. La doctora me miró los oídos, le hizo unas preguntas y escribió la receta. So we can see one event, two event, three events. Me di con la mesa, ¡boom! Me caí, ¡boom! Y me lastimé el pie, ¡boom! Evento, evento, evento. X's on our timeline. Mientras el imperfecto, we're having a description of physical and emotional states or characteristics. That's to say, again, something that on the timeline we have the line, but we can't specifically mark our physical states, our emotional states. Those aren't things that you can really point out. They're something that continue over time. La chica quería descansar. Se sentía mal. Tenía dolor de cabeza. Okay? So this ias, ia are imperfectos. This is over a period of time. Ellos eran altos, tenían ojos verdes. Okay? We can't put eran on the timeline. Eran altos. They were tall for a long period of time. Estábamos felices de ver a la familia. Okay? Again, we can see. Estábamos felices. We're happy over time. It's not like we had a happy evening. It's continued over time. Okay? Also, we can have something that's happening in the imperfect. Remember, the imperfect is a timeline over time. But then we can have a preterite event, boom, interrupt that period of time. For example, miraba la tele cuando sonó el teléfono. So, miraba la tele y boom, sonó el teléfono. The imperfect action is going on, and then there's an interruption with the preterite action. Maite leía el periódico cuando llegó Alex. So we can imagine that Maite leía y boom, llegó Alex. So something is going on and we have an interruption. Preterite interrupts. When we're talking the past tense, where do you usually see past tense? Well, it could be a story that you're telling, maybe a story that's in the newspaper, maybe it's a story in a novel. But any sort of a story that takes place in the past tense, you will see both the preterite and the imperfect together. Okay? When we have this situation where they're together, you're going to have the imperfect providing all the background information. That's to say, it sets the scene with time, weather, location, all the things that are happening in the background. Whereas the preterite are the events that advance our plot. If I were to say it was a dark and stormy night. It was raining very hard. The children hid under their beds with fear of the thunder and lightning. All of those things would be in the imperfect in Spanish. Whereas if I say, all of a sudden, one child screamed, that's an event that would be preterite. So when you're talking about the preterite, remember that there are certain things that will indicate that you're using the preterite. For example, ayer, anteayer, una vez, dos veces, el año pasado, de repente. All of these things are referring to events. So usually they're going to be associated with the preterite. With the imperfect, we associate the terms that go de niño, todos los días, mientras, siempre, con frecuencia, todas las semanas. Okay? All of these things indicate the imperfect because they refer to ongoing things. Here's a short story that will show you the differences. Eran las 2 de la mañana. El detective ya no podía mantenerse despierto. Se bajó lentamente del coche, estiró las piernas, levantó los brazos hacia el cielo oscuro. Okay, so here we have eran las 2. We're setting the scene with the time. Ya no podía mantenerse despierto. He was so tired he couldn't stay awake. Okay, again, we're setting the scene of how he was feeling. Se bajó lentamente. Okay, event. Estiró, event. Levantó, again, event. La luna estaba llena y no había en el cielo ni una sola nube. De repente el detective escuchó un grito espeluznante proveniente del parque. Okay, again, we're setting the scene. La luna estaba llena. No había en el cielo ni una sola nube. Again, we're setting the scene, giving background information. And out of the dark night se escuchó un grito. Okay, again, this is an event that's interrupting the background information.